after that. So the verse we are reading from Bhagavatam is Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse number 27. Tasmims tada labdha ruchir mahamate priya shravasi akhila matir mamam yayahametat sat asat swamaya mayaya pashye mai brahmani kalpitam pare. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O great sage, as soon as I got a taste for the personality of Godhead, my attention to hear of the Lord was unflinching. And as my taste developed, I could realize that it was only in my ignorance that I had accepted gross and subtle coverings, for both the Lord and I are transcendental. So purport: ignorance in material existence is compared to darkness, and in all Vedic literatures, the personality of Godhead is compared to the sun. Wherever there is light, there cannot be darkness. Hearing of the Lord's pastimes is itself transcendental association with the Lord, because there is no difference between the Lord and His transcendental pastimes. To become associated with the Supreme Light is to dissipate all ignorance. By ignorance only, the conditioned soul wrongly thinks that both he and the Lord are products of material nature. But in fact, the personality of Godhead and the living beings are transcendental, and they have nothing to do with the material nature. When ignorance is removed and it is perfectly realized that there is nothing existing without the personality of Godhead, then nescience is removed. Since the gross and subtle bodies are emanations from the personality of Godhead, the knowledge of light permits one to engage both of them in the service of the Lord. The gross body should be engaged in activities, the gross body should be engaged in acts of rendering service to the Lord, as in bringing water, cleansing the temple, or making obeisances, etc. The path of Archana, or worshipping the Lord in the temple, involves engaging one's gross body in the service of the Lord. Similarly, the subtle mind should be engaged in hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, thinking about them, chanting His name, etc. All such activities are transcendental. None of the gross or subtle senses should otherwise be engaged. Such realization of transcendental activities is made possible by many, many years of apprenticeship in the devotional service. But simply attraction of love for the personality of Godhead, as it was developed in Narad Muni by hearing, is highly effective. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadamayam Dadati Sopadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishpanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamniti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Pujantam Rama Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Maruya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmikir Kokilam Valmikir Muni Simhasya Kavita Vanacharana Shrinvan Rama Kathanadam Konayati Paragatim Yaha Pivan Satatam Ramacharitamrit Sagaram Atriptashtam Manim Munde Pracheta Shama Kalmasham Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Yatra Tatra Kritamastakанjalim Vashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam Veda Vedya Paripumshi Jathe Dashratatmaje Vedas Pracheta Shadashit Sakshat Ramayana Atmana. Okay. So this verse talks about how Narad Muni became enlightened and how Narad Muni became a devotee of the Lord. So we discussed a few things that Narad Muni did. Firstly, he was associating with the devotees. Then secondly, what does association mean? Association means that he was sitting with the devotees and he was discussing Krishna Katha. He was listening Krishna Katha from them. So he is listening to the pastimes of the Lord. So that is very important, because simply by coming and sitting with the devotees but not discussing pastimes, dadati pratigranati, as it's explained in Nectar of Instructions also. So essentially the devotees should engage in discussion of Krishna Katha, and that constitutes association. Otherwise it's the same as mundane association. If we come to devotees and we also discuss things like property, market and sports and politics and stuff, then we might as well do that outside. We don't really need devotees for that. So among devotees we should discuss Krishna Katha. And we see that this verse was obviously, it's glorifying Narad Muni. So Narad Muni did all of this. And we see that Ramayana also, it starts with Valmiki approaching Narad Muni. So this whole Ramayana that we have, Valmiki Ramayana, actually it starts by Valmiki asking Narad Muni a question. And the first verse of Valmiki Ramayana is Tapaswadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidamvaram Narada paripapracha Valmiki Muni pungavam. So the whole of Ramayana, it starts with a question. It says that he who was engaged in austerities and in performing asceticism, that Valmiki, he with great eagerness he approached Muni Pungavam. Muni Pungavam means he who is the most perfect of all Munis. So he approached Narad Muni and he eagerly inquired from him, or eagerly asked him questions. So then he asked him about the 16 qualities of a person, and he said that, I want to know which person can hold all of these qualities in the current time. Kono asmi sampratam loke gunavan. So he said, who at the current time contains all of these qualities? So Narad Muni is the best personality who can explain what is devotional service, because he himself, the path in which he attained perfection was also that of perfection. So now, given that today is Ramanujacharya's appearance day, essentially the way Ramanujacharya learned Ramayana was also quite interesting. So Ramanujacharya, for those of you who don't know, he came around 1000 years ago. In fact, we had his, I think 1000th birth anniversary last year or the year before, something like that. So it was celebrated with great awe and pomp all across the world who understand about the significance of Ramanujacharya. But essentially he was a great Vaishnava saint who came during a time when Mayavad was very, very popular. In fact, he started preaching at the age of 6 when his guru Yadava Prakash, who was a complete Mayavadi guy, he pretty much blasted him, and he destroyed his arguments in one sense. So the story goes that once upon a time his guru, who was Yadava Prakash, was getting a massage from a younger boy. And actually that younger boy was none other than Ramanujacharya. He was performing the massage. And one boy came running to the guru, one of his Ramanujacharya's little colleagues, you could say. He came running, schoolmates, came to the guru and asked him, oh Guruji, I've read one word in Chandogya Upanishad, but I don't know what it means. And what was that verse? That verse was Yat Kapyasam Pundarikam Evam Akshini, which means that you can understand some words maybe like Yat Kapyasam Pundarikam Evam Akshini. So essentially that verse in Chandogya Upanishad, it was talking about, so the child asked him, what does this mean? So the guru, he was a Mayavadi. So he said that actually this verse means that Lord Hari, his eyes are just like the backside of a baboon. They're just red like the backside of a baboon. Now I don't know how many of you have been to India, you might have seen a baboon like a monkey and his backside is red. So he said that that's what Hari's eyes look like. So when Ramanujacharya heard this, he had tears flowing from his eyes, and his tears were very hot with anger. So because he was massaging the guru, those drops of tears fell onto that guru's body, and he got burned. He was like, oh my God, what's happening? So then he saw Ramanujacharya, he saw that he's crying. So he said, why are you crying? He said, the verse in Chandogya Upanishad is so beautiful. Yat kapyasam pundarikam evam akshini. But you have explained it in such a ridiculous way. He said, okay then, if you think you're so smart, can you explain it? So he said, yes, this verse is actually talking about kapyasam, means one which evaporates. So he says that the eyes of the Lord are as radiant as the sun, but they're also as cool and as beautiful as the lotus. So he said that this is the real meaning of this verse. So the guru got very annoyed, and he made all kinds of plans to kill Ramanujacharya also, because he was very much annoyed. But we see later on that his attempt failed, and eventually that guru himself, he became a disciple of Ramanujacharya. So Yadava Prakash became a disciple of Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya lived for around 125 years and he had around 6,000 sannyas disciples. So he was definitely a very, very powerful sannyasi. But there's a story which happens when he was young. So when he was young, he wanted to learn the Ramayana. And he wanted to learn Ramayana from his uncle, who was Shailapurna. So he travels all the way down from Srirangam. Srirangam is near South India, for those of you who don't know, in Tamil Nadu. So he travels all the way from Srirangam to the Tirumala hill. So Tirumala hill is where Lord Tirupati is stationed. Or that's where Lord Tirupati's temple exists. And on top of that, there were many devotees of Lord Vishnu who lived there also. So he pretty much went over there, but Ramanujacharya had this conviction that I would not step foot on the Tirumala hill. The reason he did not want to step foot on the Tirumala hill is because he considered Tirumala hill as non-different from Krishna. So he said, how can I step on top of Tirumala hill? So that was his mood. But the problem was that his uncle, Shailapurna, used to live on the Tirumala hill. So now how could he learn Ramayana from him? So he called his uncle. He sent a messenger perhaps. And then the messenger went and conveyed that message. The uncle came down to meet him. And then the uncle said, well, I have made a vow that I will never leave Tirumala hill. So now there was a conundrum. One person cannot, the disciple cannot step on Tirumala hill and the guru cannot come down from Tirumala hill. So essentially they made a pact that they would meet at the junction where Tirumala hill starts and the guru would not leave the Tirumala hill, and in that way they would discuss Ramayana. And for 365 days, for one whole year, they discussed Ramayana. So he learned Ramayana in very much detail from his guru. And that is the right way to learn Ramayana also, to understand it from proper disciplic succession, to understand Ramayana from proper authority. While he was learning Ramayana, he learned 18 secrets of Ramayana, which essentially determine how Ramayana should be interpreted. And that is what I thought we'll discuss today, because in the evening we're going to discuss Sundarkanda, so this will be the right mood. And you will see some of the secrets I won't discuss in too much detail now, because we'll cover them in the evening. So I thought we'll discuss all of these for now. So the first secret that Ramanujacharya learned from his guru was Paramatma Tattva. Paramatma Tattva means who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, that answer is clearly explained in Ramayana. So, who is Paramatma? Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Well, we see in so for those of you who don't know, Ramayana has 7 cantos. So, like Srimad Bhagavatam has 18 cantos, Ramayana has 7 cantos. The first canto is Balakanda, the second canto is Ayodhya Kanda, the third canto is Aranya Kanda. Aranya Kanda means where the Lord went into the forest. Fourth one is Kishkinda Kanda, where the Lord went into the kingdom of Kishkinda of all the monkeys. Then the fifth one is Sundar Kanda, which we'll discuss in the evening. And sixth one is Yuddha Kanda, where the great war happens. And then next one is Uttar Kanda. So what happens when Lord Ram comes back? So all the pastimes that happen after that. So the fact that Krishna or Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead essentially is described in the Balkanda itself. So in the very first canto, it's clearly explained that Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, why is this being discussed? Because many people misunderstand that. Many people think that Rama was just a normal man. In fact, if you read the Buddhist and Jain literatures, they consider Ram to be an ordinary man. So this was essentially one of the main secrets which he revealed to him. Do we have any evidence for this? Yeah, we have evidence for this in Ramayana itself. Like we see that when Ravana was tormenting the whole universe, at that time all of the devas, all of the demigods, they approached Lord Brahma and to ask for help. Then at that time Lord Brahma says, well, I don't have enough power to help you, so why don't we go to Lord Vishnu? So then they go to Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu essentially says that, yeah, that's fine, I will be born as the son of Dashrath in the form of Lord Ram. So we see that all the demigods approached Vishnu. So that means that Vishnu was the one who was superior to all of the demigods. But at this point, someone may raise an objection. They may say that, well, of all the demigods that went to Lord Vishnu, Shiva was not there. So now the question may still remain, that is Shiva the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or is Vishnu still the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So then we see, as you go on in the Balkanda, there's another event where Vishwamitra describes about a war that happens between Vishnu and Shiva. So the way it's described is, once upon a time, the demigods, they also wanted to know who is superior. Is it Vishnu or is it Shiva? So they wanted to know that. And it's described that at that time the demigods approached Brahma, and Brahma individually approached Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. And he asked them, can you please engage, can you please have a battle? And in that battle we want to see who is the Supreme Lord. So then at that time Lord Vishnu said, okay, that's fine. And Shiva also agreed to the battle. And then when they came into the battlefield, Lord Vishnu, when he saw Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu just uttered a humkar. Humkar essentially just means he just twanged his bow and then he hit his thigh and then he just uttered a hum, just like how if you've seen wrestlers do that also. So Lord Vishnu just did that, and just by doing that, Shiva's bow slipped from his hand. So that humkar itself was so powerful. So that battle didn't even start and it finished there. So then at that point, all the demigods got very scared because that humkar of the Lord was so powerful that it was so deafening. All the demigods became completely frightened. So then at that point, the demigods made this resolution that, okay, we're never going to test the strength of Vishnu and Shiva. We're never going to engage them in battle in the future. So that's how we know that Lord Ram, essentially, who is none other than Vishnu, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then we see in the Balkanda further on that Lord Vishnu, he broke the bow of Shiva also. So when he went to the so essentially the story is that he goes to the place of sacrifice where Janak Maharaj was performing the sacrifice, and actually it's described that that bow already had a small crack in it. So when so the sacrifice was over, so Ram said to his guru Vishwamitra, can I see this bow? He said, yeah, sure, why not, go and have a look. So then he goes and has a look, and then Ram is like, oh wow, this is a cool bow. He picks it up and then he strings it. As he was trying to string it, it breaks. So then Ram becomes so sorry. He goes to Janak Maharaj and he says, oh sorry, I just broke your bow. Janak Maharaj is like, okay, it's okay, don't worry. Here's my daughter, just marry my daughter. So he pretty much just gave Sita, okay, yeah, you marry my daughter, because Janak Maharaj was having a hard time finding someone who was valorous enough who could, hold Lord Shiva's bow. So when Lord Shiva's bow was broken, that also proved that Ram was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now one may ask again that, well, in Shastra we read that there are different types of incarnations of the Lord. There are Shakti Avesh avatars, then there's Leela avatars. Was Ram just an ordinary man who was empowered by Vishnu? Or was he the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself? So to answer that question, we have the next event which happens, which is that Parshuram comes to the field. And Parshuram challenges Lord Ram. And Lord Ram defeats him in the blink of an eye. He steals Lord Vishnu's bow from him as well. He strings it and then puts an arrow towards him. And then he says that, well, you've lost the battle. So it proves that Lord Vishnu or Lord Ram is even higher than all of the Shakti Avesh avatars of the Lord. So throughout all of these events, it is proved that Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an Avesh avatar or anything like that. He is none other than the Paramatma. Another incident which happens is later on. In Aranyakanda, when the Lord is in the forest, he gives moksha to 3 people. Does anyone know who he gives moksha to? He gives moksha to 3 people. Jatayu is one, yes. Jatayu is the vulture who laid down his life for Lord Ram. Shabari. Ahilya was not given liberation as such. She actually reunited with her husband, Gautama. Yeah. Shabari is right anyways. Shabari is one. So Shabari he gave moksha to. And there's one more person actually.
He was going to sacrifice.
He was about to leave his body. Do you remember his name? Sharabhanga. Sharabhanga was another one who Lord Ram gave liberation to. So it's explained that that's why one of the names of the Lord is Mukunda. Mukunda means one who gives moksha. Da means to give. So Mukunda means one who can give moksha. And the only person who can give moksha is Vishnu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So those events it's described also prove that Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we should not have this misconception that Rama is a person. So Rama is not a person, Rama is not a human being. Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. There are many other incidents as well which prove that Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I think you all get the point. So then the next secret that he discussed is Upaya. Upaya means how to attain him. So okay, we understand that Rama or Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Next the question comes how to obtain him. So the way upaya, the way in which to approach him or the way to attain him is described as sharanagati. Sharanagati means surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you perform surrender onto him, he will accept you. So we see many incidents of this. Firstly, we discussed about the demigods. When the demigods take shelter of Lord Vishnu, he gives them shelter. Then in the second canto, so now again I've discussed this so many times, so I'm sure all of you know. In Ayodhya Kanda, who takes shelter of the Lord? We'll make it interactive so that we don't fall asleep. So in Ayodhya Kanda, who takes shelter of the Lord? Huh? No, that is in Yuddha Kanda. Yeah. Second canto, Ayodhya Kanda, who takes shelter? Lakshmana takes shelter of the Lord. So Lakshmana falls at his feet and he says that, please accept my surrender. I want to travel with you to the forest. So he accepts that surrender. Then at the end, Bharata also falls at the Lord's feet. Yeah, that surrender is also considered to be a successful surrender. So his desires were also fulfilled. Then in Aranyakanda, so when the Lord is in the forest, any examples of those who fell at Lord Ram's feet and he gave them shelter? That is Kishkinda. Yeah. So Aranyakanda, when he's in the forest, Sharabhanga is, you probably explained, Sharabhanga is there, Shabari is there. Yeah, the sages of Dandakaranya are there. So all of the sages that were living in Dandakaranya at that time, they also sought shelter at the feet of the Lord from the Rakshasas. So the Lord killed all 14,000 Rakshasas single-handedly. That was a huge feat. Yeah, so that happened. Then Kishkinda Kanda, Sugriva sought the shelter of Lord Ram. The person who didn't seek shelter of Ram, Vali, was killed. We see that also. Then the next one is Sundara Kanda. Who takes shelter of the Lord during Sundara Kanda? Hanuman is in Lanka, so he's already taken shelter. We'll discuss that in the evening class, so some suspense will be there. So yeah, then we'll continue. So then Yuddha Kanda we come, and then there's Vibhishana. Vibhishana takes shelter of the Lord at that time also. The reason why Sundarkanda is not mentioned is, actually Sundarkanda is mentioned as a special circumstance. Because the person who, or people, or, okay, I won't reveal. It's a bit more sweeter. That's why that shelter is considered even more sweeter than any of the other Sharanagatis that take place. So we'll discuss that in the evening. So Yuddha Kanda is there. In Yuddha Kanda, Vibhishana, the brother of Ravana, takes shelter at the feet of Ram, and he's protected also. So yeah, there are many examples of Sharanagati which take place, and the Lord accepted all of them. So that is why it's said that the only way to attain Him is to surrender onto Him. So now the question may come, okay, if we surrender onto Him, what should we do? Like, what is the mood in which we should surrender onto Him? So then it is explained that the mood in which we should surrender onto Him is the third secret, which is Kainkarya. Kainkarya means that you should seek His shelter with the aim to serve Him. If you seek shelter onto His feet, or if you seek His association without the attitude of service, that Sharanagati will not be successful. Does anyone know of an example where someone sought shelter at the feet of Ram not with an attitude to serve, and then this surrender was not successful? Surpanakha, exactly. So Surpanakha wanted to associate with, she wanted to marry the Lord, and then the Lord did not want to marry, because she did not want to marry the Lord to serve Him. She wanted to marry the Lord so that she could enjoy with Him. And in that process, she also wanted to kill Sita. So that surrender was not accepted by the Lord. That surrender was rejected by the Lord. So the only way surrender can be successful is if someone seeks the blessings of the Lord, seeks the Sharanagati of the Lord, and also tries to serve Him. Or seeks Sharanagati of the Lord to serve Him. Like the Devas, for example, when the demigods sought protection from the Lord, they also incarnated on this earth in the form of many different beings. Like for example, Lord Brahma, he incarnated as who? Lord Brahma, we don't remember. Jambavan. So Brahma incarnated as Jambavan. Indra came down as Vali, yes. Suryadev came down as Sugriva, that's right. Ashwini Kumaras came down as Nala and Neela. Nala and Neela, that's right. So like that, like all the demigods they incarnated. Jatayu, I don't know if there is demigod. Oh, okay, I don't know. I thought Jatayu was an eternal associate of the Lord. So please let me know if you remember in the evening. Yeah, I'll double check.
I heard from some lectures somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Please let me know if you find out. Yeah. Like that, yeah, all of the demigods. Agni came down as Angada. So like that, like all the demigods incarnated to serve the Lord. So when they agree to serve the Lord, then that surrender also becomes successful. So if you just surrender unto the Lord saying, oh Krishna, I'm surrendering at your lotus feet, please give me some money. Yeah, that will not work. Yeah, because the attitude of service is to serve. Then that surrender becomes successful. Then we may have the right attitude. We may know that we have to surrender unto Him. Do we need anything else in order to offer surrender unto the Lord? So that is explained as the Purusha Karya. That's the fourth secret. Purusha Karya means you need someone to intervene on your behalf. You need someone to intercede on your behalf for that surrender to be successful. Like when the demigods, they approached Lord Vishnu, they approached through the medium of Lord Brahma. When Lakshmana approached Lord Ram, he approached Lord Ram through the medium of Sita. Yeah. When Sugriva approached the Lord, he approached the Lord through Hanuman, who was a devotee of the Lord, like that. And then in Sundarkanda also there's a very beautiful episode where the surrender happens through an intercessor or someone who can vouch on your behalf. We see this throughout Krishna's pastimes. If you want to accept shelter at the feet of the Lord, you need someone who will vouch for you. Otherwise, Krishna does not accept that surrender. Yeah. And then in Yuddhakanda also, Vibhishana. Vibhishana takes shelter of the Lord through whom? Hanuman. No, not Hanuman. Huh? No, not through Angad also.
Repeat your question.
Who does Vibhishana use as his intercessor for taking Sharanagati at the feet of the Lord? Sugriva, that's right. So he approaches Sugriva, and Sugriva is the one who vouches for his Sharanagati. So like that. You need an intercessor on your behalf. So then the next three secrets which are explained are in relation to the brothers. So the mood of service of the brothers. So the three brothers of Lord Ram were Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna. So now what was their mood of service? The reason these are being discussed is because we need to imbibe these in our bhakti also. So the first one that is described is Adhikara. Adhikara means direct service to the Lord. In Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava language, that is known as Vapu Seva. Vapu Seva means directly serving Krishna. So we have to directly serve Krishna. Like Lakshmana, when they were in the forest, Lakshmana did all kinds of menial service. Like when he surrendered at the feet of Ram, he said, he knew that, okay, Sita is going with Ram. So he fell down at Lord Ram's feet and he said, I will do the dishes, I will do the cleaning, I will do all the clothes, I will make the shelter, I will be the security guard, I will collect all the ingredients, I will make all the food, etc. So then when Sita heard all of this, she told Ram, he's definitely coming with us. Because that means that, she doesn't have to do anything in the forest. So yeah, that Sharanagati was completely successful. So this Ramanujacharya explains that this is actually one of the ways in which we can serve the Lord. So when you have deities, when you have picture of the Lord, this is the way we should serve Him. We should offer Him prasadam, we should clean His altar, we should do all of these things for the direct service of the Lord. So Lakshmana's character teaches us how to serve the Lord. So Lakshmana forwent his sleep as well. It's explained that he didn't sleep properly for 14 years. I mean, many people say that he didn't sleep at all. But actually there is one incident in Ramayana where Lord Ram is waking up Lakshman. So then, is that a contradiction? No, it's not. Because the way it's described is that Lakshman did not have a sound sleep ever. He was always on guard, so he would wake up at regular intervals. So he never had a sound sleep at all. So Lakshmana essentially gave up his sleep for the service of the Lord. So that is how it's described, that's how our mood should be while we're serving the Lord also. We should be willing to do some kind of personal service to the Lord. Then the next one is Adhikara Paratantriya, which means that this is the mood of Bharata. Bharata was the other brother of Lord Ram. And essentially what that means is, what did Bharata do? Bharata could not travel around with the Lord. Bharata could not serve the Lord in person. So how did Bharata serve the Lord? Bharata served the Lord by following his instructions. So Adhikara Paratantriya means to follow the instructions, rules and regulations which are given by Krishna. So when we follow those rules and regulations, then we can also understand that this was the mood of the Lord. because Bharata wanted the Lord to come back to Ayodhya, but Lord Ram said that no, I cannot come back because I have to fulfill the promise of that I made to my father. So that means that I have to go to the forest. So essentially it meant that someone had to say, and Lord Ram gave him his golden slippers. So then the question people ask is, well, did Lord Ram travel in the forest without slippers?
Yes.
He has slippers. But didn't he give his slippers to Bharata? So how do you resolve this contradiction? So actually what had happened was that when Bharata had come from Ayodhya to get Lord Ram back, he actually bought golden slippers with him because he wanted the Lord to wear golden slippers on his way back. But the Lord did not accept to come back. So that's why Bharata gave Lord Ram the golden slippers, onto which Lord Ram stepped out. And then he took those slippers and he installed them in the throne in Nandigram. Actually, he installed those slippers, over there, and then he worshipped those. And the ruler of Ayodhya for 14 years were Padukas. They were the Lord Ram's slippers, not Bharata. So Bharata essentially followed the orders of the Lord. So whatever the Lord wants you to do, that you do. So that is explained through the character of Bharata. So one more example is there, very interesting example. In Uttarakanda it happens. Uttarakanda, Lord Ram is being coronated as the king. Now he has to decide who will be the prince. So if something happens to the king, the prince needs to look after the kingdom. And at that time Lord Ram did not have any kids. So at that time he decides that Lakshmana should be the prince, because Lakshmana has served the Lord in many different ways for 14 years. So when Lord Ram tells Lakshmana that you should be the prince, Lakshmana very vehemently he refuses. He said, no, I will not be the prince. So Lord Ram says, no, I want you to be the prince. He says, no, I will not be the prince. So he fought with Lord Ram and he decided that no, he does not want to be the prince. Why did he not want to be the prince? He said that if you make me the prince, in my mind, even if for 1 second I have this thought that, if Lord Ram goes away, I will be the king. He says, I cannot tolerate such a thought. So he says that I will never ever be the prince. So he directly disobeyed the order of Lord Ram. So then what does Lord Ram do? Lord Ram summons Bharata, his other brother. And he says, you need to become the prince. Heir apparent. So what does Bharata do? Does he also refuse? No, he doesn't. He accepts it. Because he says, okay, if this is your order, if you want me to do this, I will accept it. So then Bharata became the heir apparent, or Bharata became the prince, it's described. Then what is the next one? Next one is Shatrugna. Shatrugna is described as Bhagavata Paratantriya. Bhagavat Paratantriya means that he was a servant to the devotees. So Shatrugna had all the reason that he could have decided to go with Lord Ram to the forest because he didn't have any service to do himself. So he could have gone with Lord Ram. But he decided that, okay, well, even though I can go, it's better if I stay back and if I serve the devotees. So serving the devotees is the other qualification or the other aspect in devotional service that Shatrugna teaches us. So that is explained in Valmiki Ramayana. It said, Shatrugna Nitya Shatrugna Pritihi Puraskritaha, which means that Shatrugna was the enemy of, Shatrugna had destroyed multiple enemies. So which enemies did he destroy? He actually destroyed his lust for Lord Ram. That is explained in the commentary. Now it might sound a bit weird. How is it possible to have lust for Ram? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains. He says that sometimes Krishna can also be an object of our sense gratification. He says that we have to be careful that we don't use Krishna as an object of our sense gratification, but as an object of our service. And we are the objects of his sense gratification. That's the mood. So that is being explained here also. The first one is service of Lakshman, which is that you should engage in service of the Lord directly. Second is service of Bharata, which means that we should follow the instructions of the Lord. Then third one is service of Shatrugna, which is that we should serve the devotees. So all of these three are important for us in terms of how we perform our bhakti. So that is explained as, so these we have covered 7 secrets of Ramayana. 11 more to go. Don't worry, they'll go a bit quicker, so that's fine. So the next one is Artha Panchaka. Artha Panchaka, which means, Panchaka means 5. Artha means subject matters. Or subject matters. So essentially there are 5 subject matters which are discussed in Valmiki Ramayana. What are those 5 subject matters? Those 5 subject matters are described as who is the Supreme Lord, that is being discussed, who is the Jiva, that is being discussed, how to obtain him, the third one, results of obtaining him. So, okay, you find out, okay, like how can I obtain him? And then the fourth one is what happens when you surrender unto the Lord? What is the result of obtaining him? And the last one is obstructions to obtaining him. If you want to obtain him, what are the obstructions and how do you get over them? That we will discuss in Sundarkanda also when we discuss in the evening. Over the next 5 days, I don't know when we'll discuss it, but we'll discuss it over the next 5 days anyways. So, yeah, all of these 5 are discussed in Ramayana. Then the 9th secret which is discussed is Akinchanatvam. Akinchanatvam means that when you are taking shelter of the Lord, you should have a feeling of Akinchana. Akinchana means that you are helplessly falling at His feet and you will only seek His protection. You will not seek the protection of any others. How is that described? How is that explained? Well, it's explained that, for example, it's given through multiple different examples. So only the Lord can protect, no one else can protect. One of the examples is you may say, well, I might take shelter of my father. But we see, can anyone give an example of where the father failed to provide protection?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Any example where the father has failed to provide protection or Sharanagati?
Crow, giant crow.
Jayanta Crow is there, yes. Indra refused to provide him protection, yes. Yeah, that's right. So Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad also, father could not provide protection. So the
Ravana saved their sons.
Ravana could not save his sons. Aksha, Indrajit, everyone died. Yes.
Prabhu said Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj, yes. Yeah, we discussed that. So Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad we discussed, yes. So father cannot provide protection. So then, okay, you might say, okay, well, mother is more kind. Can mother provide protection? Can you think of any example where even the mother could not provide protection? Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect example. Where Kekai could not provide protection to Ram. Kekai could not even think about the best interest of her son, Bharata. So that is the example that's given in Ramayana. Any others?
Dhruva's mother as well.
Who's?
Dhruva's mother.
Dhruva's mother also could not provide him protection. That's right. Suniti, Surichi. Huh?
Kunti Maharani also, I think. Kind of like it's not.
Yeah, she encouraged them to. She encouraged the Pandavas to take shelter of Krishna. That is there. Yes, yes, that is true. So mother also could not provide protection. The one that I can think of is Bhrigu Muni's wife, Kavya Mata. It's explained that once upon a time the demigods were having a battle with the demons, and at that time the demons they sought shelter at the feet of Kavya Mata, who is Bhrigu Muni's wife. So they thought that, okay, because she's a woman, no one will kill her. But Vishnu came and he took his Sudarshana Chakra and chopped off her head also. So, yeah, just because you're a mother also doesn't mean that you can provide protection. Then, the next one someone may ask is, what about the demigods? Can you think of any incident in Valmiki Ramayana where someone sought the shelter of demigods but they could not be protected? Ravana is there, yes. Ravana sought the boons of Shiva. Yeah, he was still not protected. That's actually the prime example that's given. Yes, any others? Amrish Maharaj. Amrish Maharaj took shelter of whom?
Even Brahma could not Amrish Maharaj, Durvasa Muni.
Durvasa Muni could not, yeah. Brahma could not protect him also, yes. So demigods cannot protect them, yes.
Ravana's son.
Ravana's son, yes. Meghanath. Yeah, Meghanath also took protection of Devi, but even Devi could not protect him. So yeah, we see multiple examples of places where the people took shelter of the demigods, but the demigods, the surrender was not successful. That's why they had to go and take shelter of Vishnu ultimately if they wanted to be protected. So that is the other secret here, that if you want to take shelter of the Lord, you must feel helpless and you must be utterly convinced that no one else can give me protection. So that is called in Gaudiya Vaishnava language, that's known as Rakshishyati iti Vishwasa. Rakshishyati iti Vishwasa means you have complete faith that Lord Ram will protect me or Lord Vishnu will ultimately protect me. So that is one of the other secrets. Then the 10th secret, we've already discussed this, so I won't go too much into it. And we'll also discuss this 10th secret in Sundarkanda, is Acharya Varanam, which means that the intercessor that we were talking about previously when we discussed about Purusha Karya actually has to be an Acharya, has to be a Guru. Only when you approach Krishna through a Guru, then you will be safe. And that is actually explained very nicely in Sundarkanda. So we'll discuss that in a bit more detail tonight, hopefully, or in the next 5 days. Yeah. Then the 11th secret is quite interesting. So 11th and 12th generally go together. So like you've heard all of this, like you've heard all about bhakti, you've heard all about the glories of Lord Ram. Then you might have a very eager desire to meet him. You might have perfected your bhakti and now you really want to meet him. So how can we meet him? So the way it's explained is in the 11th secret, which is Antakantha, which means that climax, which means that the devotee actually waits to leave his body so that he can meet the Lord. So generally people are very anxious, they're very scared of leaving their body. But the devotee is actually very much looking forward to death. So if you're reading Ramayana, if you're hearing Ramayana, if you are imbibing and reciting Ramayana regularly, and you don't develop this quality that, like I want to leave my body so that I can meet Lord Ram, then you've kind of missed the point, essentially. That's what Ramanujacharya describes. Because one understands that, the only way I can meet Lord Ram is once I get rid of my material body. So the desire to leave one's body should culminate after hearing the Ramayana, and that is described as the 11th secret. Then the 12th secret is, okay, well, I'm not going to leave my body now, so what do I do in the meantime? So then that is described as pravartana. Pravartana means that up until that time, you follow in the footsteps of Lord Ram. You follow what he did, you imbibe his own character into your own life, and that way you live your life. So that is described as pravartana. Another thing is vasasthana. Vasasthana means that we also try to live in a place where Lord Ram lived. Now, of course, it's not possible for us. Australia is like very far from India or from Ayodhya anyways, so we can't live in Ayodhya. So is there another way that we can live with Lord Ram? Yes, we can live with Lord Ram. Wherever Lord Ram is being worshipped, over there, Lord Ram is personally present. Veda Vedya Pare Kumshi Jathe Dashrathatmaje Vedas Prachetasha Sakshat Ramayana Atmanam, which means that wherever the Vedas or wherever the Ramayana is being recited, over there the Lord personally appears in the form of his personal self also, that is described. So in the meantime, we can do these two things. We can follow in the footsteps of the Lord, follow his example, and we can try to worship the Lord in our house. So if you try to worship the Lord in your house, then in that way we should continue to live our life and be eager to drop this body so that we can ultimately meet Lord Ram. So then the next secret is that this Ramayana actually explains the Narayana mantra dvaya, which is, there is a mantra, it's known as Shriman Narayanam Charanau Sharanam Prapaddi. Now this is a very interesting mantra. I won't really go into the details, but essentially it describes how the first word, which is Shriman. Shriman means it describes the glory of Lakshmi. And glory of Lakshmi or Sita is being described in Balkanda, which is the first canto. So like that it describes that, Shriman Narayana. Narayana means the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Lord Ram. And all of his auspicious qualities are described in Ayodhya Kanda, which is the second canto. So that's why Narayana is the second representation of the whole of the second canto. Like that, it describes the whole mantra like that. So I won't go into too much detail because we don't really recite this verse or we don't really recite this mantra anyways. The 15th secret is quite interesting. It explains that the Ramayana is actually an exposition of the whole of the Gayatri mantra. So the whole Gayatri mantra is included in Valmiki Ramayana, and actually the whole Valmiki Ramayana is actually a exposition, or it's a commentary on the Gayatri mantra. So how is this possible? If you actually count the Gayatri mantra, it has 24 syllables. I won't recite it, but you can see Tata Savitur Varenyam 8, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi 8, Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya 8, like that. So there's 24 syllables in there. So the way it's explained is that if you take the first verse and then you take the 1000th verse, you take the 2000th verse, you take the 3000th verse, etc., all the way down to 24,000th verse, because Valmiki Ramayana has 24,000 verses. And then if you take the first line of that verse and you go to the first alphabet of that verse, all of these verses, if you put together, it forms a Gayatri Mantra. Now the example of that is, you just look at the first verse. What is the first verse? Tapaswadhyaya niratam. So ta, so same thing. So Gayatri Mantra begins with ta, and then the first verse of Valmiki Ramayana also starts with ta. So that actually also points out that this scripture is not an ordinary scripture. This is a very divine scripture, which was actually, like if you read the Valmiki Ramayana, it says that when Valmiki was ordered to compose the Ramayana, he said, I don't have the skills to compose this Ramayana. Like, it's the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't have the skills. So then at that time, Lord Brahma said, don't worry about it. I will bless you. And by my blessings, you will be able to compose. I will show you all of the pastimes of the Lord in your vision. So you'll be able to see all of the pastimes in your vision, and then you'll be able to describe all of them. So then at that time, two people also come with Brahma, who were his wives. Does anyone know who Lord Brahma's wives are? Gayatri and Saraswati. Yeah, so these two also come with Brahma. And Saraswati says that by my blessings, you will be able to compose this whole poem in a very poetic form. So she gives him that. And Gayatri says that by my blessings, my mantra, my Bija mantra, which is Brahma Gayatri mantra, which is the Gayatri mantra, will also be incorporated into your scripture. So he received blessings of all three, of Lord Brahma, of Gayatri, and of Saraswati also. So all three of them were able to give him his blessing. So that's why this literature is not an ordinary literature. There's no comparison between Valmiki Ramayana and any of the local ones. I know in Nepal also there's one version of Ramayana, is that right? I think there is. I got told that. In Hindi, famous one is Ramcharitmanas. In South India, there is famous Kambha Ramayana. Like that, there are many different versions. I found out that in Indonesia and Bali also there is one Ramayana. So like that, there are lots of different versions of Ramayana also. So, but the most authentic of them, which has been blessed by Lord Brahma himself and by Narad Muni himself, is this Valmiki Ramayana, which is why we discussed that also. So we're almost there. We just have three more secrets to discuss. The 16th secret, which is described here, is Durvichara Parihara, which means that we should negate negative philosophy. Negate negative. What is negative philosophy? Negative philosophy is things like, there is no God, I want to enjoy this world, just live life to the fullest, YOLO, you only live once, so enjoy life to the fullest, eat, drink, be merry, and who has seen what will happen in the future, who has seen what will happen after death, and oh yeah, this whole world, yeah, we are just produced because of lust, and then yeah, once we die, we just turn back into chemicals. So yeah, that's why we should just enjoy this life. So all of this is also being rejected here. Can anyone think of an example where this happens in Ramayana, where this philosophy is rejected? This philosophy of hedonism and stuff.
I forgot the particular name of that personality, but he was trying to take Ram back to Ayodhya. But it was his pretension. Ram knew that. So Ram literally chastised him again. So it was out of love coming anyway.
Yes, that's true. So essentially when Lord Ram goes to the forest, at that time Bharata, he tries to get Lord Ram back. So he takes so many people with him. He takes the mothers with him, he takes Vashishta, he takes all the ministers with him. So Vashishta tries to convince Lord Ram to come back. Lord Ram gives good arguments, no, I'm not coming back. Bharata gives arguments, he says, no, I'm not coming back. At that time there was a person, another minister of Lord Ram, whose name was Jabali. And Jabali also tried to present lots of arguments by saying things like, who has seen, like your father is still existing in heaven, etc. He says, no, there's no such thing as soul. He's like, you should take the kingdom back, enjoy it, and live your life, be merry. Why do you want to adhere to the words of your father? Your father is no more. Don't worry about that, man. Just chill, come back, etc. He's like trying to get Lord Ram to come back. Lord Ram was patiently hearing all of that. But then he looks at Vashishta and he says that, I thought my father was a very intelligent man. I used to respect him so much. But today I've lost my respect for him because he has a minister like Jabali in his ministry. So he got very angry at him. Yeah. So then Jabali fell at the feet of the Lord and he said, no, actually I don't really believe in this. I only presented this philosophy to try to get you back. So we can see that Lord Ram does not appreciate this kind of atheistic or hedonistic philosophy. So that is explained here also, that when we are reading Ramayana, we should not read it with a hedonistic mentality. That we're reading this so that we can enjoy our life. Like many people do Sundarkanda, they recite Sundarkanda so that they get some material prosperity and things like that. All of that is being condemned here. No, it should not be done for any of that. This is only done for the pleasure of the Lord. Then the 17th secret, the second last secret which is being discussed here is samsara jihasa, which means that one, when they're reading Ramayana, when they're or listening to the Ramayana, one should become utterly frustrated with this world. One must be convinced that this material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam, that this material world is not a good place to be. So if we are listening to Ramayana and at the same time we are also cultivating our material desires, that means that the Ramayana has not really had a good effect on us. So when we are listening to Ramayana, our desire should be that we should leave this material world. Can anyone think of an example where this would apply in Ramayana itself? That one wanted to leave this material world.
I think Sita Mata with the test, when they Sita at the end where
Oh, like when
that
she was being, when her character was being tested. Yeah.
Sita is not
Your answer is partially right in that it is Sita, but that incident is not the correct one.
Sorry, repeat. It's not like I'm not.
You have to pay attention.
I want to give the right answer. That's all.
Yeah. So essentially, the idea is that the question is that can anyone name an incident where a person has become so frustrated with this material world and realizes that this material world is not a good place to be, and that they want to be with Ram?
When she is kidnapped, Sita is kidnapped.
Yeah, that's right. So when Sita is kidnapped and when she is in Lanka, even though Lanka is very, very beautiful, she doesn't want that. She wants to Lord Ram. So actually we should be like that. Like this material world may look very beautiful to us, but still our desire should be that we only want
where would when Lord Hanuman wanted to give up his life as well, where would that fit in? Because he couldn't serve Lord to cross the Lanka.
Oh yeah, you mean after he crossed Lanka, he felt like he wanted to commit suicide?
No, before he
Giving
couldn't.
you the power.
Before then, actually, all of the monkeys, everyone was frustrated. Yeah, but they didn't really want to give up their life. They were actually thinking, what should we do? Actually, if you read Valmiki Ramayana, it's described that they were lamenting. They were thinking that, we've come to the end of we have come to the shore of India. Now what will we do? There's a vulture that's trying to kill us, whose name was Sampati. He's coming to eat us. And they said, we're so hungry, we're so thirsty, we can't see Sita, we're about to die, and this vulture is coming to kill us. Oh my God! They were just praying to Lord Krishna. They were praying to Lord Ram. Lord Ram, please help us. They were praying like that. Yeah. So actually, they didn't really try to commit suicide at that time. Yeah, it's described there. So that situation would technically not fit, but I can see the point there that someone also feels very dejected, and then they ultimately seek the shelter of the Lord. So that would be, maybe we could fit that in akinchanatvam. Akinchanatvam means that they're completely helpless. They've exhausted all of their options, and then they seek shelter at the feet of the Lord. So maybe it would fit there. Yeah.
Hanuman also feeling the frustration when he wasn't able to find Sita.
Yeah, that happens in Sundarkanda. So when he's in Sundarkanda, that time he decides to commit suicide.
That was close to suicide.
Yeah, that was proper. That was like proper suicidal. Yeah, he was thinking of giving up his life there. So that is definitely described.
what about Ram's father?
Ram's father, yeah, that's a very good option. Yeah, Lord Ram's father did not want to enjoy the whole kingdom.
Without
If
Ram.
if Lord Ram is not there, for 6 days he left and then he left his body.
Left his body.
Yeah, that is also a very good example. That he does not want to enjoy his kingdom if Ram is not there. So yeah, that is also a very good option. That's also a very good explanation.
True. Regarding the banners, I heard from my Shiksha Guru. So he clearly explained that they were so frustrated in such a mood that they were about to suicide, in the sense that we can't find we couldn't accomplish what we are sent for. That we return back, Sugriva will kill us. Like Angad was prominent among these.
Angada thought that, yeah,
And
that's right.
finally Hanuman convinced him like, okay, what was your purpose for? We are here to serve Lord Ram. Then Hanuman changed the whole scenario. So that is how he saved the whole truth.
Yeah, Angada's position is described there. Angada was there, but then Jamavan and Hanuman are the ones who tell him that it'll be fine, we'll find something. But they were very frustrated, and at that time they were saying, you know, like, Sampati is coming to kill us, we are hungry, we are thirsty, we are about to leave our body, etc. And they were saying that, okay, well, if we have to leave our body, we might as well leave it here. They were thinking like that. But that is when they were convinced that they were going to die. It's not that they were contemplating on how to commit suicide. They were thinking we're going to die anyways. So how should we leave our body? That's what they were thinking. Yeah. So Angada was afraid of Sugriva because Angada's father was killed by Sugriva. That's why he was afraid that if I go back, then Sugriva might kill me. So yeah, that is explained, but yeah, it doesn't really fit in here. It fits in Akinchanatvam, that they were willing to give up all of their material opulence also. So that, yeah, it fits more over there. Yeah. And last one is an interesting one, which is that the Valmiki Ramayana also explains how to perform all the 64 arts. So that is known as the Chatu Shashti Kala Mayatva, which means that the 64 arts are explained. Now, 64 arts, if you want a more detailed explanation, you can read Nectar of Devotion. Over there, all the 64 arts are explained. Like, they include things like singing, dancing, poetry, making food for Krishna, grammar, stitching, all of these things are included there. Yeah, all of these 64 arts are explained in Valmiki Ramayana. The example that we give is like, if one wants to learn how to perform yajna, for example, how to perform sacrifice, that is explained how Dashratha performed sacrifice. If one wants to learn how to rule the kingdom, that is explained when Lord Ram teaches Bharata how to rule the kingdom. So that is explained there. If one wants to learn fine speech and grammar, then you can listen to how Lord Ram glorifies Hanuman's speech. When Hanuman first met Lord Ram, he spoke in such brilliant words that Hanuman only speaks 3 verses. But Lord Ram glorifies Hanuman's speech in 40 verses. And he pretty much lists all the things which Hanuman did right. Like the intonation, the pitch, the speed, the grammar, the words, word choices, etc. Everything Lord Ram glorifies. So that is also explained. If you want to speak nicely, that is also explained there. So
is there cooking also, I think. Cooking is there?
Cooking must be there somewhere. I don't really remember, but it
Krishna's
must be there.
64 qualities also same.
Yeah, all of them are there. Yeah, 64 arts.
Arts, yeah.
Yeah, all 64 arts are explained in Valmiki Ramayana also. Yeah, so if we read in detail, if you want to find the 64 arts and if you read the Ramayana, you'll be able to find all of them there. That's how it's explained. So these are the 18 secrets that Ramanujacharya learned from his guru, Shailapurna. So with this attitude and with this mood, we should read and hear Ramayana. So having said that, I've already spoken for long enough, so I'll finish there. If anyone has any questions, any comments, anything they want to share, we can discuss so now. Or it all made sense.
Quick question. Gayatri Mantra starts with Bha. Is that not considered as the start?
No, Bha is considered to be the Upamantra. Upamantra, Bhur Bhuva Swaha. That is actually that's the invocation. Just like, for example, when you read the Ishopanishad, the invocation is Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. That is the invocation. So you invoke. So in this case, you invoke the 3 words and then you recite the Brahma Gayatri Mantra, like that. So similarly, that's not considered the start of the Gayatri Mantra. Tat Savitur is considered to be the start of the Gayatri Mantra. Yeah.
And the other question was, the last quality that you're saying, right? You should feel so frustrated that you want to give up this material world. I mean, is it explained as to how one should decide to give up? Because the more we talk about it, the more examples that we spoke about, everything led to that point of feeling suicidal. That's definitely not the way to do it. So
Yeah,
is there
exactly.
more description of how one should prepare or think about it?
Yeah, definitely. We'll discuss in Sundarkanda.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm leaving lots of cliffhangers.
Yes.
Otherwise, yeah, what's the incentive to come if I tell you everything now? So, yeah, it's explained in Sundarkanda very nicely. Because that incident of him wanting to commit suicide is there in Sundarkanda. So it's explained in much more detail there. So we'll discuss it there.
Okay.
there's a huge commentary by the acharyas also. Yeah, nice question. Any others? Or
Then even suicide is not considered as a good way to leave the body. Right?
definitely, yeah. Suicide is. It's explained that if you commit suicide, you have to come back as a ghost because your lifespan has been set already by Lord Brahma, and if you disobey the natural order, then you have to live for that remainder period of time as a ghost. It's explained. So yeah, the devotees understand that, but it doesn't stop them from being suicidal sometimes. Yeah, you can still get suicidal feelings when everything is very frustrated, you're very desperate. Yeah, but you'll see what happens. None of them actually commit suicide. Yeah, even though they feel suicidal.
But like suppose if we come and see from other point that when we see that okay everything what happens in our life is as per the Krishna's plan, then why should we be frustrated? I'm just
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in one sense it's true, but the devotees' thinking is that they feel that the Lord has rejected them. That's what they feel. They feel like I've sacrificed everything for the Lord, but ultimately the Lord has rejected me. That's what they feel, and that's when they feel suicidal. Like the prominent example in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime is Chota Haridas. Chota Haridas was rejected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could hold on to his life for 1 year, but after that he could not hold on to his life, so he gave up his body. But the interesting thing there is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kind of sanctioned that. He said, yeah, that's fine, it's better he leaves his body. So that suicide in one sense was sanctioned. But the suicide of others was not sanctioned. So that's why none of the devotees actually left their body. Or Krishna made some kind of arrangement so that they could not leave their body. So the devotee would not commit suicide because he has some material problems. Like, oh, I got kidnapped, because of that like Sita did not want to commit suicide because she was kidnapped, so to speak. She wanted to commit Sita also wanted to commit suicide. But the reason she wanted to commit suicide was because she felt that Rama had rejected her. So that's when she felt suicidal. And that's why she jumps into the fire also. She feels like Rama has rejected her also. So she jumps into the fire. Now there's a huge explanation behind all of these events also. But this suicidal incident that happened in Sundarkanda we'll discuss. Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
like what we are saying in Shikshastakam, the 8th verse also. That
Asnishya padaratam vinashtuma.
whatever you are, I'm
Yeah.
ready to take, I'm ready. You
Yes.
will reject me or you
Yes.
whatever.
That's right.
So then that part, because for us we are not like, very, like I'm saying about myself, I'm not like elevated or anything. So whatever happens in our life, like suppose if I'm rejected or anything, but still then how should I approach it?
Yeah, this is very high level of bhakti actually. So that when the devotee has given up all complete shelters of this whole world, and then he seeks shelter of the Lord, and it apparently feels like the Lord is not protecting you, then a devotee may feel suicidal that, like my Lord has rejected me, what's the use of my life? So then that may happen. Although the feeling is there, and he knows that, theoretically he knows that, or she knows that, Krishna is always there with me, Krishna is always protecting me. But they don't really feel that mercy, or they don't really feel that connection. And that is what may prompt a devotee sometimes to feel suicidal. But it doesn't mean that they act on it. They earnestly pray to Krishna, or they earnestly pray to Rama for appearing in front of them, or for their mercy at that time. So, yes, it may happen like that, and the devotee knows theoretically that, even if Krishna rejects me, then even then I should not give my life. But the thought may still come. That's the idea, yeah. Mataji, you want to talk?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I was going to ask a question, perhaps it's just straying away from Ramayana, but it's just following up from what Prabhu was asking about
Sure.
suicide. Is there ever an instance where suicide is okay? Like if it's a survival, like you're being attacked and you know you're going to be harmed, you could, is there a situation where it's ever okay? Suicide,
Usually there are always exceptions to the rules.
Yeah.
And in Dharma Shastra there are certain places where it's explained that, like if so and so happens, one should commit suicide. Like one of the examples that is given is, I know there might be some examples for Kshatriyas also, but I only know the examples which are mentioned for Brahmanas because I read those, and those are generally more applicable for devotees. But essentially it means that essentially one of the instances I read in Manu Dharma Shastra a long time ago was that if the guru has given improper knowledge to his disciple, then it's explained that that guru should commit suicide. So if by the instructions of the guru the disciple's life was forfeited or the disciple's life was completely ruined, in that case it's explained that the guru should commit suicide. Yeah. If a sannyasi has an illicit connection with women, for example, then in that case the sannyasi should give up his life. It's explained in Shastra like that. So there are certain instances where according to Shastra suicide is allowed. Yeah. But that is essentially for not because they are frustrated with their own life, but it's because that is the right course of action in that particular circumstance. So in those cases it's justified. Yeah.
Sanatana Goswami wanted to commit suicide because he had pus and pee where the blood was coming out of it. Then Mahaprabhu said, this body doesn't belong to you, the body belongs to me.
So you have to engage it in my service.
Mahaprabhu used to hug him and he thought, oh, Mahaprabhu is hugging my body with the pus and all those coming. So, but then if your body is used for Krishna's service, we have no right to kill that body.
Yeah, Jesus Christ also, he wanted to leave his body when he found out all the suffering that was going to come to him. At one point he feels very, very dejected, especially in the garden of Gethsemane, like when he was suffering. He also said, Lord, please take away this cup from me. He said, like it means he wanted to give up his life at that time. But then immediately he corrected himself and he said that, no, actually not my will, but your will should be done. So he said that if you want to use my body for some other purpose, that is fine. Yeah, so it is possible that sometimes a devotee may feel suicidal or get some suicidal thoughts, but the beauty of the devotee is that they correct themselves through proper knowledge and proper understanding. As Prabhu pointed out, Aslishya Padaratam Pinashtu Mam. They get that thought and they say that yes, actually this belongs to Krishna. Ultimately Krishna will do what he has to do. So yeah, it is possible, but they correct themselves. Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
You explained the 18 qualities, and in that the one you explained was Antakanta.
Oh yeah.
Looking for the death to meet the Lord.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand, at the time of the death of Ravana, was thinking that, I just heard, and I'm not very sure, so was he surrendered to Lord Rama at the end?
No, he did not surrender. Many people say that there's some false versions which say that Ravana surrendered and then Lord Ram asked Lakshmana to take instructions from Ravana, etc. That's all not there in Ramayana. So when Lord Ram killed Ravana, he died in agony and he died in anger towards Lord Ram. It's explained. That's why, but because the Lord killed him, he obtained Sayujya Mukti, which means he obtained impersonal liberation. And that's why he had to come back again as Shishupal, like him and Kumbhakarna came back as Shishupal and Dantavakra. They came back. Ultimately they were Jay and Vijay anyways. But, and then only after they were killed by Krishna was when they went back. That is what's described. But the devotees understand that they came back again for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime as Jagai and Madhai anyways. But no, Ravana did not purify himself. At least Valmiki Ramayana does not give any evidence of Ravana becoming a pure character before dying.
So then Shishupal and when they were killed by Krishna, were not having the same consciousness? What the consciousness was Ravana?
Yeah, they had.
I know this is the story of Jai Vijay, who has to take 3 births. Then there's Ravana took the birth of Shishupal or whoever, then why Shishupal has to go? Because you see the principles applies the same consciousness, same consciousness to their king. From Ravana they are taking birth as a 3rd birth.
Yes, they came back again. Yes.
But with Shishupal they have to, because that was the move.
After that they went back. So are you asking how did their consciousness get purified? Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually that's answered in Nectar of Devotion. Nectar of Devotion, it says that Krishna Avatar, Krishna is the only one who when he kills he can take the devotees back to the spiritual world. How? It's explained that when Krishna kills them, Krishna kills the demons, their sins are purified. So that means they get impersonal liberation. They go to the Brahma Jyoti. At that time, when they take darshan of the Lord, when all of their sins are gone and they take darshan of the beautiful form of Krishna. So Krishna has 4 extra qualities: Rupa Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, Venu Madhuri and Prem Madhuri, I think. Yeah, so those are the 4 extra qualities. So when they see these 4 qualities, especially the Rupa Madhuri, when they see the Rupa Madhuri, they become so attracted to the Lord and literally they give up their envious mentality. That's what Rupa Goswami explains in Nectar of Devotion. That's why even though they get liberated to the impersonal platform, they actually go back to the spiritual world. But that's only possible with Krishna. No other avatar can do that. All the other avatars, they get impersonal liberation, but then they come back down. That is the speciality of Krishna. Yeah. Because I also had that same doubt. How is it that when Krishna kills someone, they go back to the spiritual world, but when Ram killed, their consciousness didn't change? But actually the consciousness changes. When they get impersonal liberation and when their sins are gone, then when they see the beautiful form of the Lord, they become attracted. Yeah. And they become devotees. So yeah, very beautiful.
What about VAD, voluntary assisted dying, which is legalized
Oh.
in Australia now?
I mean, like, this will open up a scope for so many things, but technically, according to Shastra, suicide should not be done to lessen one's sins. Because essentially, if you do it, you'll have to, whatever karma you're given, you have to undergo that anyways. So if you kill yourself or if you go undergo assisted dying, then you have to suffer that remaining karma again in your next life.
You talk about euthanasia.
Euthanasia, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, euthanasia. Now they have some fancy euphemism. So instead of because euthanasia is used for animals now, so you can't use the same word for humans. So that's why they call it voluntary assisted dying. Yeah. Yeah. Palliative just means you give them comfort cares before they leave their body, but voluntary assisted dying is you give them an injection so that they can leave their body. So technically speaking, it's not allowed in Shastra, because even though you might be suffering, there is a reason for your suffering, and you have to undergo all of that before you go on to your next body. Because if you don't do that, then you'll have to suffer more in hell, or you might have to suffer more in your next life. So generally speaking, you should do that.
Following from this, I'm not suicidal, but there's someone that I know that had committed suicide.
Oh yeah.
So hence my interest following from this. So if they commit suicide at a particular age, however they were expected, Krishna sanctioned the death at 70, but they committed suicide at 35. In essence, what you said that they would appear as ghosts in that transition time until they reach the point of 65 when they're supposed to.
That's when the Yamdutas will come and take them to Yamloka.
Oh,
Yeah, to the hellish planets. Then after that,
You know,
yeah, and then they have their judgment.
yes.
They go to heavenly hellish planets, and then the next life is decided. Until then, they just roam around without a body, and that's actually a lot of suffering. People don't realize that, but the Atma, when it sees material objects, it becomes very enticed to enjoy them. It wants to enjoy tasty food, it wants to enjoy tasty water, drinks, etc. It wants to have a nice comfortable sleep, etc. But it can't do any of that because it doesn't have a body. So it's actually a very, very painful way to live for the remainder of your life. So
it's an evolution of consciousness as well for that particular soul.
yeah.
Who
Like
suicides.
the next life,
So that because he isn't getting the body, so in that ghost body, he understands that, okay, this is what I should have done.
This is what I should have done, etc. And then hopefully in the next life they won't do that. Yeah. Okay, no worries. Think with.
You know, put in the essay that why Shri Lord Ram is the Lord, is not an avatar. You know, you covered the few points in the beginning. So I just missed, I couldn't write it. So
Yeah, sure, I'll tell you.
just or you can write it in the message. So
Yeah, I'll send it to you, that's fine. Actually, there are many more, I just covered like 3 or 4. Yeah, I'll message them, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. See you all hopefully in the evening for continuation.